Oh wow, the lights are on me, so it must mean we're getting started. Welcome everyone to the Twitch Quokka Theatre. Before we begin, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we gather here today, to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, to their elders past, present and emerging. What a wicked turnout! Thank you so much. I think I might be missing something. I mean, this is the first panel I've ever hosted. I think I might be missing something. People? Yeah, maybe. I don't know, maybe if we cheer loud enough, they might come out. Come on, a little bit more. Let's do it, come on. Please welcome to the stage, Rich Lambert and Johanas.
Hello, everyone.
Wow, there's a lot of people here.
I know.
This should be entertaining.
Well, I'm sure you guys will be. Welcome to the Quokka Theatre. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great.
Yeah?
Finally not raining today.
I know.
Give it time.
I'm feeling personally responsible for that, though. Ever since I landed from Perth, I think I brought a little bit of sunshine with me. So, yeah, I think the rain is kind of...
That's okay, he brings the rain. So.
I bring the rain, yeah.
Oh, well, it evens out.
Every time I leave the building, it just starts raining.
Well, we didn't come here to talk about weather, surely. How has your PAX been so far, John?
This is actually my first PAX ever.
PAX Aus, or?
No, ever. Like,
ever?
Yeah, ever.
Amazing.
So this is really cool to see. I've been to some trade events, but this is obviously a different vibe, right? We get to see, it's mostly community-based, fans of games, cosplaying, just tons of, like, just people interacting with other people and having a great time, not trying to sell each other stuff. You're buying some stuff, I see.
You're trading pins.
Yeah.
Trading pins.
Trading pins,
right.
that's so cool, yeah. Just a really cool environment. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, basically what John said, right? Like I've been to a number of PAXs, especially, in the States, East and West. 2019 was actually my first PAX Australia, so that was awesome. And then of course COVID hit, so that kind of ruined things. But yeah, it's great. It's great to see people are back, people are out, they're hanging around. The cosplay's been phenomenal. So yeah, it's just an overall really great vibe.
Well, last year we had about 80,000 people through PAX Aus, and I'm guessing this year it's going to be a little bit more than that.
I think so.
Yeah, what did they say? PAX is back, right?
PAX is back.
PAX is back, yeah.
Celebrating their 10 years. Very exciting. What has been the most notable thing about PAX so far for you? Any adventures? Rich, I feel like you have one.
I mean, I always do, but mine always tend to go off the rails a little bit. So, Brushes and Brews has been really good. It's a thing, we've been doing where you get to drink beer and you get to paint. And beer is one of my favorite things. So, just being able to do that and kind of watch people be really creative and whatnot. So, I've walked around a little bit, haven't had a lot of time, so I plan to do more of that tomorrow. I have a lighter schedule tomorrow, so I'm going to wander around the indie booth and kind of see what's going on there.
Amazing. Who in the crowd has done the Brushes and Brews? Hands up. Nice. Quite a few.
Yeah.
I did it as well. I did it at 9 a.m., which was a fantastic way to just put my confidence in the toilet. First thing in the morning. It was fantastic. I had a lot of flashbacks from high school. You know how they make you do all the subjects? Yeah, art was not my forte at all. What about you, John?
Yeah, so I was also in the Brushes and Brews section, which we're running, and I'm good at one of them, which is the brew part, not the brushes.
Hey, I saw your painting.
It was not something that I would approve if I was going to put in the game, but it was a valiant effort on someone who doesn't draw. But I think the most important thing was, everyone was just having fun doing something like that. Again, that kind of was the vibe I was getting around the show in general. It's like, everyone's just having a good time. No one wants to be professional about everything.
Right.
It's just a good time.
Fantastic. Well, the team on Twitter have got us some questions
Oh, boy.
from the community.
Okay.
We won't be taking live questions today, but do know that all the questions that I will be asking have come from maybe some of you in the crowd. Who would like to go first? I think I'll start with the joint ones. Which character from your games would you love to see visit the other and why?
Oh, wow. So I think for me, I would love to see something or someone like a Soft the Seal go show up in kind of Hi-Fi Rush. It feels like kind of the vibe, right? It's, you know, I think that'd be really cool, personally.
What would they do in our...
I mean, anything. He's essentially this omnipotent god, so I think it'd be really cool, right? You know, he's very kind of mechanical and whatnot, so seeing that kind of in there would be really cool.
That is a good idea, yeah. For me, if you're familiar with our game, you know we have a character, Cinnamon, who is a psych robot, and I think he would have a great time going through Tamriel and one by one talking to every NPC and every character and giving them, you know, unfiltered advice on their personalities and have unlimited fun, basically.
Yeah, it actually would be really interesting to see the different, you know, the way that those characters are drawn and created all of a sudden in each other's worlds. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you have for others who are interested in getting into your positions? Maybe start off with what you do for your company and then what advice you would have for anyone who wants to fill a role like yours. Rich, you go first.
I go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm the creative director on the Elder Scrolls Online, and basically what that means is I work with all the teams, and I'm responsible for all of the stuff that goes into the game. And so I work with, you know, the people that are doing the quests, the people that are, you know, doing all the monsters and the writing, and then same thing with the engineering groups and the art groups and whatnot, just to make sure everything is a cohesive whole. So, you know, to get into my role, I had to basically go through the paces. I started in the industry as a tester. That was a long time ago, 26 years ago, 27 years ago. And I kind of worked my way through it. So I got to see, while I was testing, how some teams worked well, how other teams didn't work well, the things, you know, in the development process that, you know, were difficult. P.S., it's a lot of things in development that are difficult. And then I just kind of worked my way up. I went into production, and then I moved into design. And then on ESO, I started off as a producer, and then I moved to be the lead dungeon designer. And then I moved in to be the lead content designer, and then now I'm the creative director. So it's kind of been this arc, and I think the biggest thing getting in is kind of showing that passion, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be a writer, show us that you write. If you want to be a designer or an artist, show us that, right? Like, to me, portfolio is the most important thing you can have as a hiring manager. A piece of paper that says you graduated is great, don't get me wrong. But if you can't show that passion and show all of the things that you've done and why, you know, you want to do what you think you want to do, then it's really hard to kind of hire somebody on that, right?
For sure. John, what about yourself?
Yeah, so my job at Tango Gameworks is just director, which is kind of strange because I think games have become very, very complicated nowadays, that you do kind of split directorship duties between multiple people, but I guess we're kind of old school in the fact that for us, director would be similar to what Rich does with creative director, as well as a game director, which is kind of going into the very basic game mechanics as well, and adjusting that stuff. And again, not a position that you immediately go into after many years of working on. The first game I worked on was The Evil Within, and that was my first job as just a designer in general. But I also entered that job in a completely different way than Rich, which is kind of something I'd like to get across, is that there's no one way to get into the industry. Is that I kind of joined my company without any game design experience whatsoever besides just liking games. But I did show up with that passion, or I applied with that passion, saying that I don't know exactly what I want to do. Again, this was a very strange way to get into game development, but I applied basically on a website and showed up with a hobby of mine that I was doing, which was translating novels from Japanese to English. And I showed up with a fully translated novel. I just printed it out, and I was like, I like to do this, and I'd like to work with you. And then I do remember at that point, in the interview, that novel was basically flipped through like a flip book to make sure it just wasn't blank pages. And then, but I think that kind of was the idea of demonstrating that there was a passion behind something that theoretically no one would ever see, right? That wasn't a novel I was planning on getting published or anything like that. That was done out of a hobby. When you work in game design and game development, you're doing a lot of work out of that passion, and a lot of stuff works. Some stuff has to be thrown away, some stuff has to be redone. And so when you show up for an interview or you're applying for something, if you are an artist and like Rich said, you can have a great resume on paper, but showing up with a portfolio, showing even the hobbies that you do, and showing that you're willing to spend a lot of time constructing something based out of your interests, even if no one's going to see it, is just kind of gives you an edge in the way of showcasing that you have that strong desire that would see a project that may take 3, 4, 5, or in Rich's example, probably Elder Scrolls Online was 7 years before it?
Yeah, we started in 2007 and we shipped it in 2014. So.
Yeah, so you're going to devote a lot of time to something, and that commitment and that dedication comes from that place of passion.
Just on that, did you both ever think that you would end up in games?
No.
Not at all. No. It was. I mean, I love them. I'm a huge, gaming nerd and whatnot. But I didn't actually know this was a real job at the time. I just thought a few people, just put together this thing and it was right the first time and away you went. And there was no possible way that I could do it.
Oh boy,
so.
the learning curve.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. It's totally not how it works. But yeah, I was, working on a business degree. I thought I really wanted to be a golf teaching professional. So that's what I wanted to do. Yeah, a golf teacher, teach golf.
Okay.
That was how I got lessons. Was I helped teach junior camps and clinics and stuff like that. And I got a tester job one semester, and never looked back.
Yeah, and the same for me. I did kind of have a general knowledge about game design. Kind of growing up, you see the famous game creators or game designers, especially coming out of Japan. And so you have that idea. There's someone with a creative vision, but I don't know the nitty gritty of like what departments are doing what and all of that. But yeah, not something I ever planned on doing until I kind of just like. It was like a long shot, like Hail Mary type, just resume dropped on a site thing. Yeah, I've already forgot the rest of the question.
So was it just by chance that you applied for this job, or?
Kind of, yeah. I was literally applying, I think, for theoretically going to graduate school with the idea of like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Maybe a couple more years in school will make me think about what I should really do.
Wait, hold on. What's graduate school? How old are you in graduate school?
Okay, so this is post-graduating university. So
okay.
I was working already in Japan. I was working as actually an English teacher in Japan and I was going to go back to school because maybe that's a better way to get a job, I thought. And it could be for someone who wants that on their career path. But for me, that was a kind of delaying a sort of not really sure what I want to do. I should really spend more time figuring it out. And I found a blog post mentioning that there was a new studio opening in Tokyo called Tango Gameworks. Or actually, it wasn't called Tango. We'd never named it. It was just like a new studio by that point, Shinji Mikami is opening a new studio. And I was like, I like his games. I'll apply, and so that's basically how it happened. Yeah.
Amazing.
You took your shot.
Took a shot.
Yep.
Shot my shot. Yeah.
Amazing. I think we're going to segue into Elder Scrolls Online, if that's okay.
Sure.
Rich, 10 years.
Yeah, next year will be 10 years of being live. Yeah.
10 years being live. That's amazing. And you've been there for that whole time.
Yeah, so I started in 2007. Before that I was actually at Bethesda Game Studios. I worked on Oblivion, that was my first game.
Hey.
Worked on Fallout 3, and then, I moved on to ESO.
Amazing. And how do you feel?
How do I feel right now? Scared shitless? No.
How do you feel proud? Do you feel the team has come a long way?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly fulfilling to be able to work on something for as long as we have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not really a secret that launch wasn't exactly what everybody wanted. And, you know, we lost a bunch of people as a result of that. And those that stayed saw the magic, saw what the game could be, and it was just a lot of hard work. And being able to see the team come together and turn ESO into what it is today is super fulfilling, and I'm super proud of the team, right? Because they're the ones that busted their butts to do this, and it was just awesome.
Definitely. So obviously, you know, that is a really long time. How have you tried to maintain the feel that the original Elder Scrolls has compared to the MMO?
I mean, we didn't get that right at launch, right? We were this weird hybrid of MMO meets Elder Scrolls, and it was kind of in the middle, and it wasn't ideal. And so we decided after launch, after we fixed a bunch of things, to really double down on this is Elder Scrolls and what that meant. And we came up with the concept of One Tamriel, which was levels are meaningful to you because there's still power, there's still progression there, but they don't prevent you from playing with your friends, they don't prevent you from just going off and exploring, which is one of the most important parts in kind of Elder Scrolls. Like, that's the thing, is you see something in the distance and you go off and you can get there, right? You're not gated because you're not a certain level. And that really changed things around for us, and we've just kind of focused on that. What would Elder Scrolls be? You know, these are the core pillars. Is this new feature we're putting in, or is this, you know, new change we're putting in, or new story we're putting in? Does it fit Elder Scrolls? And if it does, we do it. And if it doesn't, it goes on the cutting room floor, and we try to do something else.
I didn't realize my clap would go on the microphone.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Is it difficult to find new areas of the lore to explore within the MMO?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, Elder Scrolls is almost 30 years old now at this point. When was Arena? 1994? Is that right? Oh boy. So yeah, it's basically 30 years old. There's just a huge amount of lore in there. So there's always some kind of nugget that you can pull out, you can tease out. We're also in this really cool period in time where we're 1,000 years before any of the other Elder Scrolls games, and not a lot is known about that time period.
Okay.
So we get to kind of play with that and add to it, and working with the Bethesda team, it's been really awesome, you know, to add to the lore and you know, make changes and continue to build on this franchise, right? It's been a ton of fun for us.
What's your favorite part of the lore? Will you
My
share that?
favorite part of the lore?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think the thing that I like the most about Elder Scrolls is the fact that it's told from multiple perspectives. Like, the stories are told from multiple perspectives. It's this, you know, unreliable narrator. There's no omnipotent being that says this is exactly how it happened. And so when you're telling stories, you're telling them just through the eyes of the people that are there, and it leaves a lot open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
And so players, you know, some of the most fun things that we get to do is, you know, we write this series of quests or whatnot, and then you go onto the Reddit forums or onto the forums, right? And you get to read, you know, players' interpretations of that stuff. And it's cool, you know, sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. Sometimes it's this neat mash of in-betweens, and so it's really cool to be able to be a part of that.
Definitely. So if someone wanted to, I know we're going sort of back to the career, but working for ZeniMax, how would someone go about that? If they're new, entry level, what would you recommend?
I mean, pay attention to the website. You know, that's the first thing, because we post all of our openings there. We have an internship program that we've started up again, and so that's been going on for a number of quarters now, and so we go through the internships as well, and that's kind of across the board. So we have, you know, slots for engineers, for artists, for designers, and so really just kind of do that, pay attention to that. And then, like I said earlier, like portfolio. That is, to me, the most important thing. Show me that's what you want to do. Our lead content designer, Jeremy Serra, we hired him. He had no game design experience, but he had one of the biggest mods for Oblivion at the time. There was like 100,000 lines of spoken dialogue that him and his buddies all recorded, just this giant thing. And it was just like, okay, this dude's passionate about telling stories and making things. And there was some brilliant stuff in there. There was some terrible stuff in there, but it's fine, right? He showed the passion, and he's been with us ever since. And he started in 2009, and now he's leading that team that's telling stories.
I'm seeing a theme here, and it sounds like passion.
Yes, it's huge. It's incredibly huge, because games is hard. Making games is really, really hard. It's not an exact science, and if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to put in the effort. When somebody tells you this thing sucks, do it over again. Generally, they don't say quite like that, but it's not good enough, redo it. You have to find a way to, change that. And, sometimes it's your baby, and you don't want your baby to change, but you have to. And so it's incredibly, incredibly difficult to do that.
What has been a hard decision that you had to make in your role?
There's lots. there's lots. Every day is a challenge. And some days it's what is the best of the worst possible decisions, right? Like, and it's hard, right? We want to be perfect. I think inherently that's one of the things that, creative people want is, to not finish and not show somebody something until it's perfect. But it's never going to be perfect, and so trying to find that, is it good enough yet, is really, really hard.
I'm getting the feels, guys. Does anyone else have the feels?
It's really hard.
Yeah. But you know what? In 10 years, you're still here.
We
You're
are.
still creating magic
Yep.
for ESO, so bravo to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
John.
Uh-oh.
Hello, are you awake? Are you still with us?
I'm still here.
Okay, we're going to switch gears now and talk about Hi-Fi Rush. Woo. Now,
Yes.
I'm going to ask the question that you get asked all the time, or at least you told me this.
Yeah.
How fun was it to keep the release date secret?
Okay. There were some fun parts, but it was mostly stressful. Most games are kept secret for majority of their development because, like, kind of even Rich was talking about, it's like we don't want to show it yet because it's not done. It's not ready, right? But then occasionally you show it off and you get people excited about it as you head towards release. But once we knew that we were going to head into a release we were going to announce it and release it at the same time, you enter this separate phase of thinking of everything that can go wrong. You think about who am I talking to? Is there something in this room that could leak this game?
Gosh.
What sites am I on? Did I leave a window open when I was talking to somebody?
Wow.
Unplug those Amazon Echoes over here. I don't know if you have those here.
Yep.
But so you kind of get into this phase of really being mindful of keeping it a secret, but also there's a ton of excitement because you get to know that when people see something that you've been working on for us, it was 5 years we were working on this title, and we knew that people are going to see it, they may judge it, but they're going to be able to immediately play it and experience the thing that we did. And they're not going to be, moved on hype in both positive or negative ways. They're going to judge it for themselves, and everyone, like, the game gets to control the narrative itself rather than, a press release or things like that. So we were very excited for people to jump in and see something that, as a team, we were extremely proud of and very excited to give to the players.
And you have this, like, incredible secret, right? Like, incredible secret that you just want to tell, but you can't, and so it just eats at you.
Yeah,
right?
I feel really bad for my family because I went home the Christmas before it came out, and they were just like, what are you working on? Like, when is it coming out? And we're like, it's gonna be a while. And it was literally like, after 20 days, it was about to come out. And so then when it finally did get announced, and I kind of I texted I think my sister, I was like, you may want to watch this presentation. There might be something cool. And they were like, oh, okay. And then I just woke up to because it was announced Japan time, I think like 3 a.m. or something like that. So then I woke up to almost like an angry text. It's like, why didn't you tell me this? You spent 3 weeks together. You said nothing. So.
Were there any special processes that you think might be different to ordinary game development compared to one that's being developed in secret? Like I'm imagining like eye scanning, fingerprint scanning, like decontamination as you walk into the offices, being pat down,
Yes, surprisingly, like I said, for the majority of development, when it's a secret, you work with a lot of people when you make a game. There's a lot of people involved, and I'm sure many of you skip those credits when they come up, because they're getting pretty long now.
It take like 15 minutes to scroll through now.
Even the smallest game takes 15 minutes. I don't know why. But there's a lot of people involved. Obviously, everyone is, people sign NDAs and things like that, and things do leak. But in general, people are very, very professional, especially if they're involved in the game. They're also passionate about the project. They want to keep it, the excitement there as well. So they want to keep they don't want to ruin the momentum of anything that we're making. So we didn't do anything very special. Obviously, before it's announced, it's like, this hasn't been announced yet, please don't talk about it. Was just kind of a standard thing. It was just kind of those last couple of weeks where it's like, we're making trailers, we're making things for release. It's like, just kind of triple check that mail before you send it, so you didn't actually put somebody who's not supposed to see it, was the level that we were at. Yeah.
Okay. I think if I was in game development, I could manage that.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. And I think, well, again, that goes back to what we were talking about, being passionate about your work. And I think that definitely shows within Hi-Fi Rush. How did you all feel about the reaction? Because I think it was really positive.
I like to believe it was positive. If it was negative, please don't tell me.
It was super positive.
Okay, yes. Super positive. Thank you. That is the only response I need. It's super positive. There's no negativity. Yeah. Again, another thing where you could think of anything that can go wrong. We're a studio that's only made horror games or horror-themed games, and we're about to come out with something that is completely, completely different. And we knew that. And we knew that there would be unanticipated, people not getting what they wanted. They may be upset about that. And so, but we were also very confident in the fact that when people actually played it, they would be surprised and excited to jump into this new world that we created and not think of what it should have been another project or something like that. And so, seeing that reaction being so incredibly positive, I think there was like a split second of like, and then people finally get to try it. It's available on Game Pass right away, so people could, who were subscribers, could jump in right away, download it that day, and just be like, this looks weird, but I'm gonna give it a try. Oh my God, this is really fun. Can get really excited about it. So, and the game itself was created with that sort of positivity in mind. Like if you've played it, it's almost hard to get through that game without a smile on your face. And if you are very upset or frowning at the end, I don't know why you played for 12 hours to get to the end. You probably should have quit somewhere in the middle, but to watch people go through it again live, everyone's experiencing it at the same time, and everyone's just talking positive about it. It was just, we were even more excited because we didn't experience that theoretical negativity that could have happened.
Yeah, for sure. It's such a unique game, not only for the studio, but also, coming from Japan. I don't know if you can speak on some of the differences of game development within Japan compared to the rest of the world. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I will say that it's kind of funny. I'm from the U.S. I was born and raised in New York, and then I moved to Japan right after I graduated college. So I actually have no working experience outside of Japan. So people are always like, so how does this compare to working in an American studio? It's like, I have no idea. But I hear enough stories and to know that it's not really, there may be some Japan things, but there's also, every studio itself has a completely different culture and ideology behind the games they make. And for us at Tango, it's it's really just about, it's like we just want to have a fun, interesting game experience for the users. And we develop games in a sort of like flat-esque structure. We don't have, you can probably Google image our office now because there's some images, but it's like an open office, flat. It's actually not very interesting to look at. It's just white walls. But the idea is like we don't even have office rooms. Like, you know, as a director of a project, I'm sitting right next to our programmer and our designers and maybe a new hire animator. It's like there's no sort of hierarchy in that sense. Obviously for decision making, someone makes a decision. But it's a lot of just walking around, talking to people, expressing ideas, checking things on computers, just finding the fun in the moment is a lot of how we develop games in our studio. And there are some you know, talking to some other devs in Japan, some studios will do it, you know, similar to, it's very top down, you know, you have the leads making decisions and people just act on it. And that's the same probably in the States. There's studios that work like that, and there's studios who are more open and free form in how they design things. I think, yeah, I mean, maybe Rich can chime in with how things are done over at ZOS, but that's how we develop games, at least in our studio.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to work for you and your team, and then also the game, right? Like for what, you know, Tango went through, you guys were creating this game that nobody had ever really done, and you had this really cool concept. I'm parroting his talk that he did earlier at GCAP, which was, I geeked out over it, was so cool. But you know, you kind of went at it backwards, right? Yeah. Which was really cool because you knew what you wanted, you just didn't know how to get there. And you know, we kind of did a lot of those same kind of things really early on, getting to launch. But after launch, we knew what it was we wanted to do, and then it was just trying to reform and iterate on the processes so that we weren't destroying the team to get us to there. And so, you know, 10 years in, we've done, almost 10 years in, you know, in the 9 years, we've done 40 updates to the game in 9 years. So like we do a lot of updates, and we've had to learn a lot in terms of how to kind of schedule those and manage those and how to play leapfrog with the teams and stuff like that. So yeah, it depends on the situation.
Yeah, and like you said, depends on the project, probably even your project, like up until launch was a project. And then every project since then probably has an even different approach to its development cycle, right?
Yeah, we try to learn something every time we do it.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that as you progress through, like the long-time ESO players, you know, have probably seen like the quality of the launch zones compared to the quality of Necron. Like there's a night and day difference. And that is just, we're learning. You know, our technology is getting better. We've learned how to push the limits, right? And so you just kind of see that natural progression.
Yeah, it's really interesting to compare such a well-established studio and then to have something that's, you know, more modern, taking a more modern approach to game design. I will ask you one more thing, John. How do you guys, what's your favorite song from there, and how does it feel having such, well, a lot of the music is licensed, right?
Well, we had, yeah, some of the, not all the music. We had, I think it was a total of 11 tracks that were licensed. But then I think our final, when we released the album of original songs, I think there was a lot of original music. There was like 60 tracks or something like that, yeah. It's just a couple songs that were licensed, but yeah.
And what was your favorite?
Oh my God.
They're all your favorites,
I mean, that's
right?
the thing,
Didn't
they're
you
all my
hand-choose
favorites.
them?
Because that
Like
was,
asking
yeah,
to pick favorite child.
Yeah, the playlist was something that I gave to early on as, originally they were like mood pieces. They were like, hey, these are the songs I'd love to have scenes that we can have tracks that feel like this. And then we started talking about the idea of licensing music, and it's like, well, if we want it to sound like this, what if we use this? And then you have to go through the process of licensing music, which is extremely complicated and has a lot of, you know, issues with getting permission and getting the data and things like that. But all the songs that were in the game were songs that were on that original playlist, and songs that I personally, you know, at different points in my life found, or sometimes they were even through video games that I found, that I discovered, and maybe they weren't the most popular artists. Some were very popular, some were very, you know, you can say like indie or minor artists, but it didn't matter to me how well that artist sold the game, because these were songs that I felt just fit the vibe or the mood or the set piece that we were trying to create. And I was like, if it works for the set piece, people will like this song. It's a good song in general. There's no reason why we have to like limit it to songs that are only popular. So for me, it's hard to choose one song. If I had to choose one, not the song itself, but the situation, there's a part very late in our game where we use this song by the Joy Formidable called Whirring, and it's a if you haven't played the game, I kind of almost don't want to spoil it because it's a very sort of almost moment. It just comes out of an emotional moment from the story, but also this huge positive moment where there's the team members all kind of come together to do this big event. And I had that in my mind from the beginning of the development. It's this is going to be this climactic thing that's going to happen in the game. We're going to set this music. And the whole team was dreading this up into the whole developing it because they knew how complicated it was going to be to pull that off. But to see it, we actually did it and get it in the game kind of almost to spec of the original design was it was just, for me personally, like a career-defining moment type thing.
So how many songs did you source in total for the game compared to how many that actually got to the final game?
I had this playlist of reference material, and there was maybe around 35, 40 songs or something like that. But not all of them could even be used because we realized, you couldn't have songs that were too fast because you couldn't play to them, or songs that had weird time signatures because it wouldn't work with our system. So a lot of them weren't in the running for using licensed music anyway, but for mood pieces. But like I said, there was about 35, 40 with this initial playlist I created on my phone. Yeah.
Okay. If you could say 3 words that you think define your game, what would it be? And I'll throw that to both of you.
Wow, 3 words.
Mine would be need more words. Okay. Mine would be good vibes only.
Oh,
Oh, that's awesome.
Your turn, Rich.
How can I top that? I can't top that. I can't top that at all. 3 words, and they're going to stand on their own is, exploration, probably freedom, and then story, right? Those are kind of the 3 that kind of wrap Elder Scrolls up in a nutshell.
Speaking of stories, Rich, why don't you tell everyone about the story that's on your leg?
Oh.
Go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
As in get up and show it?
Mm-hmm. Go on, let's go.
So I see the logo on the back of your calf. What are some of the other symbols I'm seeing here?
Yeah, so on the front, around the ankle, it's Oblivion, because that was kind of the base, the pillar of kind of my career. And then as you kind of go up there, you've got, the very first kind of major story that we told, which was Molag Bal. We've got the first dragon, because, oh my gosh, that was so hard getting into ESO. And then, there are just a lot of firsts for my kind of career. On the back side, it's each of the alliances, even though Daggerfall is the only correct choice. I was waiting for that. And then I've got the Ouroboros on my back, right on my calf, because it's right there. And then, of course, I have a maple leaf in there because I'm Canadian and I have to represent. So yeah, it's a big story. It's a meaningful piece. It started off almost as kind of a joke in a brainstorming meeting. We were talking about what are the things that we could do to really kind of jazz the community when we were about to announce Elsewhere. And I don't remember if it was me or somebody else that was spouting out ideas and like tattoos and yada yada and all that stuff. And I'm like, I'll do that. I'd totally do something like that. But there's going to be a stipulation, right? And so I picked the highest possible number that could, it was 3 times what we'd ever gotten for viewership, concurrent viewership, for on Twitch. And we didn't even start the stream, and there were already that many people in the stream. It was just so. The first thing to when we did the kickoff for that announce was, I think it was Kelly at the time, she's like, you know, I literally just sat down and she's like, Rich, you're getting a tattoo. And I was just blown away that they showed out. So don't ever challenge the community if you're not ready to get something. And it just kind of turned into a bigger piece. Like it was just supposed to be a smaller thing. And then, you know, I started talking with a tattoo artist, Lydia Bruno, and the very first thing that she got me to do was sign her ESO art book. She actually had the art book and she pulled it out and she's like, this is my favorite thing, I love this. And she was like nerding out and talking about all these things. And I was like, wow, this is cool. She's the right person, right? And so we just kind of went through and she helped me design it. So yeah, it's really cool.
So did you get that done all at once?
No, so it was 5 sessions. It was 30 hours total.
Oh.
So yeah, long tattoo. And the back of the knee sucks. I'll tell you that. It hurts. Everything else was fine, but the back of the knee just sucked.
So if it's the different areas of the game and you have the maple leaf, does that imply that Canada isn't
So what's funny is there's brand guidelines. You can't put anything inside the Ouroboros. And so the very first thing Jared said to me, who was our art director at the time, is like, that's not on brand.
Take it off.
That was the very first thing he told me. Not like, hey, that's cool, I like what you did. It was, that's not on brand, you know? Okay.
What is the coolest tattoo you've ever seen from Elder's Scrolls?
There's so many amazing
Yeah.
ones. Like just so many crazy cool ones. And I think to me, the coolest tattoos are the ones that mean the most to people because there's always a story.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people just get stuff on their arms because they want to or they're hammered or whatnot. But I mean, it happens. I have a lot of buddies that wish they would have thought a little bit more before they went and got a tattoo. But
Oh, jeez.
but yeah, the ones that are meaningful. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you see the ones on social media and they're like, oh my God, I spent 4 years designing this elaborate thing and it means so much to me, right? It's me and my character or me and my significant other and right, like just all those, the creativity that you see from the tattoos is just unbelievable.
Do you have any non-ESO tattoos?
I don't. Yes.
I don't believe
So
you.
that confirms that the
Actually,
maple
no,
leaf is.
I do. The maple leaf is a non-ESO tattoo. There you go.
Okay, all right. Now, John, you don't have any Hi-Fi Rush tattoos, do you?
None that I could show on this stream. Let's leave it at that.
Can you tell us?
Turn the cameras off.
I want to get out of this country without handcuffs.
Can you give us a hint to what it is?
No.
Oh, come on.
Next question. Next question.
Okay, we'll go back to your OG stories. What is a game that you absolutely loved playing growing up?
I mean, there's so many.
Just one.
I have to pick just one?
Probably, well, the one you have the most hours in.
I mean, I can tell you the one that I got into the most trouble over.
Sure.
And it was because I skipped a lot of school to play it. I was a bad kid, so like bad kid where like I would skip school and the school would call and leave a message on our voicemail, and I'd delete the voice message before my parents got home so I wouldn't get in trouble. Like I was that kid.
If there are any kids in here,
Don't do that. But probably, I guess it was, so in the States it was Final Fantasy III, but I think in Japan it's six, right? So that to me was kind of like a life-changing experience, life-changing moment. Like the storytelling was amazing, and just when you think, spoilers, just when you think you're at the end, it flips and the world completely changes, and then you have to go through it all, right? Like it just blew me away, and so that was probably the game that really kind of got me fully hooked on games.
amazing. John.
Yeah, it was interesting because I grew up in a household that was like, you can't have games, like, you know. And so I was finally able to get past that, I think, when the Super Nintendo came out. And one of the earliest games I remember kind of getting like lost into, like almost like literally and figuratively, was when Super Metroid came out.
Yeah.
Because
That's a
I
good choice.
didn't really understand the mechanics of, like, I was used to, I think maybe I went to a friend's house and played, Mario and things like that, where you think, okay, stages, it's done. But the, Super Metroid, you can kind of go wherever you want, and you can explore, and you get lost, and you can go to an area you're not supposed to be in. And I remember that feeling of the first time I went, theoretically, in the wrong way, and I was just kind of going in some direction. I was like, I am not where I'm supposed to be right now. And you just, like, this kind of, like, almost dread that builds inside of you. And I still remember that in a weird way. And, I replay the game, and I don't feel that anymore because I know everything, and I know where every energy tank is and everything like that. But I think that was the first game that, instead of just kind of feeling like, oh, it's a game that's taking up time, and you finish it and you're done. That's one that kind of gave me almost like an emotional, like, visceral reaction to something. And that, kind of, even the fact that I'm saying it now means that it really stuck with me and gave me an impression that, games aren't just, can go beyond just being a fun time waster in a sense, right?
Okay. Visceral. Didn't think I'd hear that. Okay, where are we at? Is there anything that either of you can share about the future of your game?
I like that question. I get that question a lot.
Sorry.
So I'm just going to give my kind of stock answer, right?
Okay,
I'm sorry. No, but I mean, we've been working on ESO for 9 years, right? 10-year anniversary is big. It's huge for us. It's going to be a celebration for the community, for the game, but also more importantly for the devs. They put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the game. So we've got some fun things planned. You may hear things in November about that, so stay tuned. But as long as people continue to play ESO and want to play ESO, we're going to continue to update it and keep adding to it and whatnot. Like, it's in such a good place. The community is so freaking awesome. So it's just an honor to be a part of it.
Incredible. Cool, very good.
Yeah, unfortunately,
He has a much harder job.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I just spoke about keeping projects secret. So,
Yes, you did.
I mean, we just released follow-up content over the summer for Hi-Fi Rush, which was really, really fun. And I think if there are players who have engaged with it, probably had a great time seeing how fast and pushing the mechanics of the game can go to just being a really kind of new experience. I am not allowed. I'm checking with my PR team over there, and they're shaking their
Kate's
head
like,
no. Don't say so. Okay,
She's gonna
so
come
I'm not
running up here.
allowed to say anything else about upcoming projects. So
I just
sorry for knocking down your question.
I just know what it's like to sit in the audience of a panel with people that are developing a game that you love. And I just had to ask the question for the fans.
There you go.
Did you really think you were going to get a good like, this was going to be it?
Look, in fairness, it's always better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
I do that all the time. All the time.
Definitely.
Yes.
I heard about that. You heard it here first. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's, okay.
I get that question a lot too.
I know, it must be. Like, I'm terrible at keeping secrets, to be honest. It must just be, because you care so much about these games, it must be hard not to share your excitement with people.
Well, the fun part is, and it's hard too, but the fun part is, you have this secret, right? Like, you've been working on a thing for a long time. It takes 18 months for us to build a zone, right? So
Wow.
if you do the math, we've already been hard at work on next year's chapter for a long time, right? We're working on 2025 and 2026 stories and stuff like that. But it's really fun to, like, go into a streamer's chat and hear them just railing on something, going, oh, if they were smart enough, they would do this. And then the next update, it comes up, they're like, we did it. It's like, we've been working on that for a year. Like, I can't say anything about it, but yeah, you go, right? You did it. So I dig that. You know, I love it when, you know, one of the things that people are, you know, upset about or wishing that we would do is kind of like the next thing that's coming out, and that's really hard to hold back.
I can imagine that would be extremely satisfying. Yeah. And I bet the team, I bet they love it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Yeah, I always think that's interesting. You know, like I understand from a fan perspective, like you want to know what the dev is working on, and I want more transparency in what projects are being working on. But also, you kind of saw from like our perspective when we kind of announced something and then you were able to play it. There's this like excitement when you do get to execute this sort of interesting plan and the way you announce things and the way you're able to bring it to your fans and the players. That can create an interesting experience of itself. And I always use this weird analogy because we talk about you don't want to show it off until it's ready. And I understand that people want to see it stuff before they're ready, but it's like you're planning to propose to someone and you hear about it and then you go just tell the person, oh, congrats. It's like, why did you do that? I was going to ruin it. It's like, you know, let it play out. Let us figure out what we want to do. And then when it's ready, we believe us as developers, we want you to experience what we're working on and we want to show it off in the best way possible. And we think the best and the way you'll appreciate it for what it is. So, just, you know, let us cook.
Yeah, I mean, there are like really early on in like the early on prototype stages and you know, a lot of the gray box stuff, you know, if you're not trained and kind of used to it, you're going to look at it and go, what the, like, how is that going to be a good thing, right? And then it just gets there, and that's part of why we try to like wait until it's at least in a presentable state that you can actually understand what the game is and get a good representative kind of feel and vibe. So, it's not because we're jerks.
No, never.
Sometimes.
Personally, like this just from my own experience in the community, I feel like there's a lot of demand to all of a sudden see, you know, what the next thing is. And, you know, like in the community, you see a lot, like, I feel so sorry for those community managers.
I do too.
Having to deal with that.
They're rock stars.
They really are.
Absolute rock stars, yes.
We love you. And, you know, I remember as a kid, and you guys probably remember this too, I didn't know what game was being developed. It like got advertised maybe a couple of months before it came out. It was in some catalogue, or, you know, you saw some poster somewhere and then it came out. Yep. But now all of a sudden there's this, you know, a lot of, what's the word? What am I trying to look for? Like, it's almost like they have some sort of, like a stake in the releases, and they feel like they need to, you know, express that. So, well done to anyone who has experienced that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things, like we talked earlier about making games is hard, and you can have a plan, and it can go right up to almost launch, and then you find a problem. A catastrophic problem that can't be fixed quickly, and then you're like, F. Right? You're just like, what do we do? How do we do this, right? And you know, I said sometimes you have to make the best of the worst possible choices. And so that's ultimately why a lot of developers don't commit to we're doing this on this date, because that's what we're working towards. But if that catastrophic problem comes up, and it happens all the frickin' time, then you're left scrambling, and that's when things get delayed, or they get pushed out, or whatnot. And you can talk to the community about that and try to be transparent with them, but a lot of times the community's like, you said this, it's coming out this, right? And it's so that it's kind of this weird double-edged sword that you have to kind of play with. And it's a challenge. Like, it's really, really hard.
Definitely. I don't think you experienced that, John, for the release of...
He did, just in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, not for Hi-Fi Rush, you know. The other titles I worked on, we got to see, you know, being involved in, for example, a sequel on The Evil Within 2, on The Evil Within 1. People are kind of when it gets announced, people are analyzing stuff. Is this character in it? Is this character in it? What's going on here? Oh, the visuals are different. I don't like what they're doing with the lighting. What's going on here? It's like, hey, we're trying to do something new. Just when you see it all in context, it'll be cool. But yeah, the same kind of feeling of you have a plan and you're just really focusing on executing it. And I guess one thing that helped with the idea of shadow dropping Hi-Fi Rush was there was that element of I hate to use the word noise because I think the voices of our players is really important into getting feedback and understanding that, but it can sort of sway people away from a vision that would be good, but they're kind of getting initial feedback that may be perceived incorrectly, you know.
There was no misinformation, right? It was literally the feedback you were getting was from people actually playing it.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
And you know, it's unfiltered, and we're not going through, you know,
yes, it
cleansing this stuff.
Yes.
Luckily, luckily, at least for my project, it was positive unfilteredness, so effing great, you know, instead of the opposite. But yeah, that I think that it can be challenging as developers. You know, we've seen some games. What was it? It was some titles started doing this thing where they were being very transparent in the development cycle. Here's like an early prototype footage, and we're working on this. Give us your feedback on the sound design here. And I'm like, that's very, very commendable, and probably very, very challenging for that team to take in fan feedback and professional feedback from their side and try to find a nice balance to that. Personally, I think that's incredibly difficult to pull off. I think you have to have a very special, you know, management of having a clear vision and being able to take and weed through that to get the response that you know will shape that into what you want as well. It's
hard enough to get your team aligned.
Yeah.
Right? You know, once you do that, I always equate it back to, like, you know, when you are making dinner. You know, if there's 4 people in your family, you're bound to make something that not everybody wants, right? So now you multiply that for an entire game and a giant team, and you've got to get the team on board. And then you multiply that by the millions of people that want to play your game, and it's like there's no possible way that you can make everybody happy. So you got to try to stick with what your initial vision was, and then iterate and listen to feedback as you go if it doesn't hit.
Incredible. Finally, is there anything that either of you would like to tell your fans or gamers out there?
Good things, right?
Look, I mean...
Sorry, Kate. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, it's, for me, it's just amazing to be a part of the community, right? They're so freaking passionate. They love talking about Elder Scrolls. And just to be kind of a part of that world and just kind of be in there, you know. My favorite things to do when I'm playing ESO is either random dungeons, because people don't necessarily know it's me, or we do a thing on Thursday nights that we call Tipsy Trials, where there will be a few devs get together with a few people, a few streamers, and we just run through the trials. And we may drink a little bit, and we might get really rowdy and have fun, but we've been doing it since COVID hit, and it's just a blast, and there's like 70 people that kind of rotate through on a regular basis. So usually it's like myself and Finn and maybe Alec from the combat team, and then a bunch of streamers. And
so where do I sign up?
Yeah, I mean, there's a Discord that you can sign up for and hit folks up. I can talk to you about it. But yeah, it's cool to be part of the community, right? So thank you for welcoming us in.
Of course.
Yeah, and for me, it's more just about if you've played Hi-Fi Rush, you probably, I hope, enjoyed it. And if you did, just, you know, spread the word. One of the unique challenges of our launching our campaign is, you know, we were able to get to a very great user base, for example, through Xbox and Game Pass and on PC audience as well. But you kind of skip that sort of that hype, you know, lead up to launch and things like that. And we had a fantastic word of mouth with our title. I think we just hit 3 million users who play the game, which is incredible for us in that short of a time. But we're always kind of also excited to see people post, for example, reviews on Steam, and they're like, I just heard about this game. And so, of course, it is a weird title. I think people see it, they're like, oh, it's a rhythm game. I'm not good with rhythm games. But a lot of the comments you see are things like, if you're not good with rhythm games, it's not that type of rhythm game. It's very, very accessible. It's very, very easy to play, and it just makes you feel like the whole point was making you feel like a rock star, even if you aren't musically inclined. So I think some people may have a sort of trepidation against taking that first step in, but if you've played it, you probably know it's very accessible, and just anyone you know, tell them it's not that expensive. Come on. It's like, it's $30 in the U.S. What is it here? $40? What's Australian dollars?
It's like 100.
Yeah, Australian dollars like $100. Yeah.
Literally, beer's expensive here. Holy cow.
Your money is transparent. What are you doing?
It's plastic,
Yeah,
yes. Well, I'm sure I can speak on behalf of everyone here in the audience today. Thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your travels at PAX. Thank you so much for chatting with us today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for hosting.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Before everyone goes, Rich has a request that we take a selfie, if that's okay.
A giant selfie?
A giant
Can we do
selfie.
Yeah, don't leave. We need you in the background. Yeah.
Are you going?
How am I going to do this?
Hey,
I don't know, my
you
arms
have-
are long enough.
Why don't we want to stand up and then take it from here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Need everybody?
Okay, you're only going to see our back. Sorry about that.
Oh, get close. Yay. Yay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.